Hi, hello, and welcome to the Study Podcast with Shivansh and Shreyansh. Today we're exploring the topic of gene editing.
This has been something that's really popping up in the news with Grey Wolf.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen the news recently, there's been a new animal which has been brought back from extinction, and they basically use the process of gene editing from the Grey Wolf to achieve this new species or bring it back from the dead.
So they came out with a new species, like they came out with a new wolf, kind of, like a mix. So we're gonna start off with what is gene editing.
Yeah. So basically, gene editing is a biotechnological technique that allows scientists to change an organism's DNA by adding, removing, or modifying species' genes.
Basically, in simple terms, it's changing your DNA, right? We know what DNA is. It's in our blood. It's in our cells, right? In our nucleus. So they're changing that to change the cells, right?
Yeah.
And the key tool that they use for this is called CRISPR-Cas9.
Yeah. We basically don't really know what that means, but that's basically an acronym for clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats, and it's a tool that basically helps with gene editing.
It has a really long name, but all it does is it takes our RNA, which is in our cells. You probably learned this in your grade 8 science. And it edits that so that when the RNA goes into the nucleus and creates a new cell, it's creating the cell that we edited to be.
Exactly. So basically, when we do gene editing, there's a bunch of benefits and applications when we do this. One of the main applications of gene editing is the medical side of it. You can basically treat genetic disorders like sickle cell anemia or cystic fibrosis, which can be cured by exactly correcting the defective gene.
So these diseases happen when you have a defective gene, but with gene editing, we can fix that so that it's a normal gene.
Yeah, another example would be cancer. Cancer is when white blood cells attack the parts of your body, and it's because of a specific white blood cell which causes all the other white blood cells to do the same. And they can use gene editing to essentially remove replace.
So you could imagine that if the white blood cells that was cancerous would meet with one of the gene edited cells, and it would basically die. If we could make some sort of gene like that, that would mean that the cancer would be removed from your blood.
Yeah. It can also be used for diseases like HIV or preventing future pandemics. Just like how cancer, you can get rid of the bad cells or the viruses or bacteria inside your body.
Yeah.
By editing.
And another thing that we've been seeing a lot of recently is the agricultural side of it. So plants have been edited to meet our needs. You might hear how our bananas are different like today than they were before.
Yeah, they had like way bigger seeds, and then now they're way smaller. Also, the taste of certain fruits like apples, they have been edited essentially to get more sugar in the plant to.
So this is like what organic farming is trying to change with like the natural use of it, but it's not working out that well, but that's a different video.
Yeah. So they can also be used for crops, like resisting the viruses or insects or infections without using pesticides, because lots of people don't like using pesticides, especially.
And they're damaging our soil and everything.
Yeah.
And also, it makes our plants more climate resilient. Like, let's say, for example, if we made wheat that was able to somehow grow in the winter because it was climate resilient, that would mean that we could grow wheat all year round.
There's many applications to gene editing, but like essentially in plants, it can help them grow faster, make more food, or have more nutrients inside the plant. And yeah.
But there's also a negative side to this that the ethical and social issues are seeing a lot of.
Yeah.
So, for example, in sports, they're seeing gene editing somehow to to make the genes of the muscle tissue inside of athletes become bigger and stronger. But they're considering that as like equally bad as drug doping, which we've seen a lot of in sports.
Mm-hmm. There's also equipment that are being banned because they're like extremely good. And they're too good to be used, and because of that, people consider those equipment unfair.
So it kind of matches with that, right?
Yeah, especially like running with the new
It's adding an upgrade to the human body that wasn't meant.
Yeah. There's another disadvantage of gene editing could be off-target effects. Essentially, when you mistakenly edit other parts of the body which you didn't want to and harm other parts of the DNA, causing bad consequences essentially.
So let's go back to the cancerous white blood cells. So if we made that new like gene edited cell that would take out the cancerous white blood cells, but we weren't careful for some reason, then it could damage, like for example, your lung cells, and then you won't be able to breathe. It'll be harder to breathe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could have unintended consequences.
The process of gene editing is also very expensive, so probably a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford it, essentially the middle class, and only like wealthy individuals or like extremely rich countries would have access to this. So it may even cause like inequalities to other parts of the world compared to first world countries.
And this is also true for sports, right? Because some athletes are like less rich than others, so some would be able to afford gene editing, and that would make the sport unfair.
Yeah, it's the same thing with equipment, as we said before. Some players would be able to afford more expensive equipment, helping their like physicality and their skill level.
I don't know about you, but I heard about this one shoe for like the marathon run.
I believe it was from Nike.
And it had a really high energy return, like compared to the other shoes.
So it also had a higher stack level, which is basically the amount of foam they had inside the shoe.
Basically a lot of new changes that made it faster.
Yeah.
So the sports banned that.
Yeah. There's also a lot of regulation we need for this, and there's many laws preventing gene editing, like permitting the amount of research someone can do
on a person.
On this topic. And some have also banned certain of these, like ending humans and like while they're still being born.
Yeah. And basically you need ethical frameworks so that your gene editing practices are ethical, which is a very hard topic.
Yeah, I mean, essentially when you're doing gene editing, it needs to be ethical, and you shouldn't be misusing it. I guess we use the word misuse, because like a lot of people can't use the service, and if you're misusing it, then it could be very bad.
So in conclusion, there's really like big potential with gene editing, but it has to be done responsibly, ethically.
Exactly. Like it would revolutionize medicine, agriculture, and biology, but it should be approached with caution.
And be like carefully, so that we're staying ethical with our uses.
It should also be balanced in a sense, because without it being ethical, as I should have said, and without people actually knowing what it is, and people not agreeing with it, then it's not correct.
And it'll add more inequality to an already very like separated world.
Yeah. So that's it for our episode today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. And hope to see you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.